Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be dedicated to a main question that has been on my mind for quite some time now. And that question is Russia and BRICS really different as far as the globalist agenda? And why I'm asking this question is because I started to pay attention to more things that I have not been paying attention before. And I know to many people this comes across like a sudden shift in opinion, but trust me, it is not. It's not sudden. It has been going on through my awareness for quite some time already. And I want to share with you a personal story, and that is that over a year ago, almost exact, I have received that special visa that would allow me to move to Russia. But something within me, I would say my intuition was telling me to wait with this decision and not to do it. I couldn't really understand why, since I knew that I really loved Russia. My trips there were absolutely beautiful and I enjoyed the energy, I enjoyed the people. Again, I only saw Moscow and St. Petersburg and some countryside outside of Moscow, about 2 hours drive. So it was surprising even to me what happened within me that I was starting to ask some questions. And as you lately have noticed, I am coming across things that are just confirming that, I would say one more time, I don't trust any government on this planet at this point at all. Today, I want to present to you some videos that maybe will stimulate your own curiosity about how different countries really are, or are they just playing the black and white, like the black and white checkboard and the Freemasonry floors, you know, those buildings that have black and white checkboards, like a chess game, kind of, yeah. Like we are being played on that board, pretty much. So today I will be showing to you videos about artificial intelligence, robots, as well as Russia's digital currency, official articles and some videos as well. And is it any different? And what it has to do with 2030 agenda, or it doesn't? It's an interesting question. I hope you stay with me today and you will enjoy this content. Before we start, huge thank you to my supporters from PayPal, to Claire, Alan, Robert and David. Some of you are frequent supporters. I very much appreciate. A lot of my videos lately have, as you know, I've mentioned before, been demonetized due to the very juicy topics that I am touching and addressing. So let's start with this clip about a robot. A robot that probably some of you already seen. This is the robot created in Russia. And you will see the latest encounter with this robot and Vladimir Putin. So let's take a look.
Приглашаю посетить нашу выставку. Я буду ждать вас на своем стенде.
So that robot was the very same robot that not long time ago had some technical issues. That robot was created by Sberbank, I think that's how you say it, the name of this bank, the largest Russian bank. And we're going to talk about this bank a lot today. We're going to look into this bank. But let's go to that video that is presenting to you, introducing to you this Russian robot. I think his name is, or its name, who knows what gender, is Idol. So let's take a listen.
This robot, billed as Russia's first fully autonomous humanoid, is going viral for its dramatic unveiling. The team behind the human-like machine named Idol is from the upper echelon of Russia's robotics scene. It was developed by the Moscow startup also named Idol, which was launched in August 2025 by Russia's new technological coalition, as the former Soviet Union's answer to perceived leaders in the humanoid race like Tesla and Figure AI. The coalition is led by Alexei Yuzhikov, founder of Promobot, a robotics firm known for its hyper-realistic android bus and its service robots who've interacted with Vladimir Putin. Standing 186 centimeters, or 6'1", the new bipedal humanoid boasts a reported 67 degrees of freedom and can lift objects up to 10 kilos, or 22 pounds. Its silicon face uses 19 servo motors to express a dozen emotions and lifelike micro-expressions. The startup says Idol walks at speeds up to 6 kilometers or 3.7 miles per hour and can balance on uneven ground. However, it struggled on the flat surface in its first public demo. With a theme from Rocky blaring in the background, the bipedal robot took just a few steps before losing balance and toppling over in front of a live audience in Moscow. Viral footage shows parts of its outer casing snapping off as gasps fill the room. Engineers rush to cover and remove the robot, which weighs a reported 95 kilos or 209 pounds. But the moment has been immortalized. The startup's CEO, Vladimir Vitukin, told Russian state media the mishap was a learning opportunity. This robot, billed as Russia's first
Okay, so before I close this video, first I want to comment on the sign. What really interests me, why this robot is doing this sign, but you know, I am a conspiracy person. Everything is a conspiracy, right? So why this robot is doing this? Okay, maybe I'm just too picky, but that was the first presentation of this robot. I believed, as we could see, they already worked on the improvement. They fixed whatever supposed to be fixed. And the first video that I played for you was with this same robot already improved. So he was dancing at the front of President Putin. Those videos got my attention. And why is that? Because when I look at those videos, I realized that this is something of similar nature, what we are seeing in China, what we are seeing in the United States, what's being presented. So this is this part, in my opinion, again, just my opinion, part of this AI future for humanity, this very, very high technology, as if the civilizations before us that were destroyed didn't have higher technologies, but I'm just saying that's a different story. This is this kind of dystopian future in a way, because you might explain to people that those robots are useful and they are helpful, but aren't those robots the ones that a lot of people are afraid of, because there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of layoffs in the United States, for example, and a lot of those positions will be replaced in the future, maybe near future, with robots. So when I saw those videos, I was thinking to myself, so what makes it different than any other countries? And you might say, you know, they have to develop like every other country, but I just didn't feel too good about it, because the concept of it itself, it's a very scary concept. So it's a very thin line between crossing this line where humanity, it's pretty much too late for humans, okay? That's how I look at it. Again, just my opinion. But what led me on this journey of investigating now, asking more questions about this particular robot, is what was said. Let me show you this again. Okay, what was said here? The AI-powered humanoid robot, Green, performed a dance for President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday. So I think this is different type of robot. It's not idle, it's Green. On Wednesday at the Sberbank technology showcase. So that Sberbank is the largest bank in Russia. And I wanted to find out more about this bank. So let me go to 2 articles, and then I will show you some videos. The first article is right here. And this is from January this year. January, sorry, actually this is from, yes, it's from 2025, and this is from November 2026. No, this is the time. Sorry, guys, my mistake. Okay, this article actually is from January, right here. January 15th, that was the time, the date, sorry, the date, today's date. January 15th, 2025. This is when this article was posted on CoinGeek. And let me read you what it says. Russia's largest lender, Sberbank, joins CBDC Pilot. So before I read this to you, I want to say a few things. When I was visiting Russia, and I will say Moscow, so let's just focus on Moscow. Very, very cashless society. Of course, they still use cash, they use rubles in many places. Most of the places you can still use it. However, when you are spending some time there, you can see that everything is done digital, okay? So, you know, you order transportation, you order food, you go to metro station, whatever you want to do, pretty much everything you do with your phone. So everything is digital, okay? I would say very, very much focused on cashless society. And I'm saying this from the experience because I was using rubles. As you know, the sanctions complicated life as far as bank transfers. I found a way because I opened a bank account there and I was transferring money eventually. But at first, all I could use was cash. So let's read this article because we all know what CBDC stands for, is Central Bank Digital Currency. So the CBDC that will be in Europe, it will be the Euro digital currency, in US, something else, who knows what kind of dollar or whatever they're gonna name it. But it looks like this largest lender, Sberbank, so the largest bank in Russia, is joining the CBDC pilot. Russia's largest lender, Sberbank, is among the new participants in the second pilot for the country's central bank digital currency, CBDC, the digital ruble. Yes, I actually heard and I read about this ruble when I was there. The first time I heard about it was the beginning of 2023, so just 2 years ago. And it makes sense because I was actually in that time in Russia. So it says the Bank of Russia launched the first CBDC pilot in August 2023 after passing a legal framework that paved the way for a digital version of its ruble. It involved 13 commercial banks in 13 cities, but the country's biggest bank wasn't among them. The exclusion was curious, especially since BOR is the majority stakeholder of Sberbank with over 60% ownership. The central bank has now included Sberbank in the second round of the pilot program. So what does this say? That the first testing that they were doing, the largest bank of Russia, as some might call it the most sanctioned bank in the world, the Sberbank, was not participating. But now, in the second round, they are part of this pilot program. In an announcement on its website, the regulator also revealed that Russia's largest digital bank, T-Bank, and its top rival, Tochka Bank, would be the other first-time participants. They join Sovocom Bank, Sinara Bank, TKB Bank, and other titans in the pilot. In total, 22 lenders will participate. Sberbank's inclusion is critical for the board's mission to push retail adoption of the digital ruble. The bank dominates the sector, accounting for nearly 70% of retail deposits. So let's look a little bit more here. Okay, here are some dates. The second pilot comes amid an accelerated push by the central bank to launch the digital ruble this year. Despite opposition from retailers and commercial banks, BOR has remained adamant that the official launch date is July this year for the major banks. So last July this year, 2025. The smaller players are expected to support digital ruble payments by July 2027. I'm gonna attach this link, will be in the description box. You just have to scroll down under the video. There is more about this digital currency and the biometrics. So let me take you here to this article. This is a little bit older article from last year, from December. And it says, this is from biometricupdate.com. Sberbank aims to lead Russia's biometrics sector in years to come. Let me just read you some part of it. We are striving, this is a comment from Oleg Yevsieyev, director of Biometrics division at Sberbank, who says, we are striving to create a service in which a citizen of our country can pay for purchases with biometrics, regardless of which bank he is a client of. And we will implement this opportunity by the end of the year, so last year, 2024. In parallel, NSPK is preparing to do the same and store a database of card links with biometrics. This is a phase that we will go through together. As a result, we will receive a single target solution for all banks in 2025. We want technology to stop being something new and fantastic so that everyday purchases can be made with the help of biometrics and a habit can be formed. So far, this payment method is used by innovators, young people under 35. I believe that with the stable development of biometrics in the next 3-4 years, the use of this technology will reach a different level in cooperation with the market, NSPK, and the central bank. So why I'm showing this to you? Because I don't think this is any better. Because in my opinion, this is also control with biometrics as well as face recognition. There is a system also in Russia that you can pay. And I'm not just saying this, I think this is in many countries already, okay? Like in China and many other countries in Asia as well, that you pay for whatever you're paying for using with the face recognition, or in Russia, there is something called you pay with a smile. So it's like face recognition, you just smile and the transaction goes through. So it's recognizing the person, right? So I want to ask you now, and this is a very genuine question. This is not something to criticize. It's just literally stepping away and looking at the big picture. How different is it from government or the banking system controlling people? How much does it has to do with citizens' freedom? That's my question. So if there's going to be cashless society, and I'm going to play a video for you because we're heading there, absolutely. Cashless society, if you have digital ID, if you're going to have face recognition, pay with biometrics or a smile, how different is this going to be from those agendas that are talking about Agenda 2030, right? Which we're going to go to in a moment. So let me play this crucial video first, because this is summarizing how, and I think this is the way how this is going. Each country is going to remove cash, bring the digital currency of the country that might say, no, this is just ruble. Ruble is better. Yuan is better. It's not the global thing. So each country will have its own, and ultimately, it will all be coming to one thing only. That's how I see it. All right, let me play this video, and then we go to some research about the Agenda 2030 and what countries signed that and what countries didn't sign that. Maybe that's we should start with, but let's take a look at this video.
Each country will crash its fiat currency. There will be no paper money in 18 months globally. It won't exist. It'll all be digital. Once each country has its own digital currency, that's the small step. They can't just go, okay, paper money's on, we're going to a global digital currency. Then that would tip people off to the whole scam that's happening. So they're doing it one country at a time to make it look like it's not all connected. Once each country cuts off the paper money and they have their digital currency in place, they will then finish crashing the whole world's economy. And then they will come out and say, we need a one world digital currency, but they've already got. The UN is already talking about, they've been working on this for 2 years, okay? It's already in place. They'll say we need a one world digital currency to stop all these crashes and things from happening ever again. It's 4-year protection. That's how they get the one world currency in place. Each country.
You know what? As crazy as this might sound, it actually makes a lot of sense. Because as we are looking at the economies, they will be, some of them will be crashing, and some of them will be, like you see in Russia, for example, they are going into digital ruble, the same as with China, etc., etc. So many countries, their economies are a little different. But in Europe, for example, we're gonna have cashless society. I think they already gave the time frame. I forgot exactly. Is it the end of next year or the beginning of 2027? Something like that. So this really makes sense. And why I'm saying this to you is because when we look into, just simply when we look into this idea that they have, the agenda for 21st century, and I wanted to look into what countries have signed it, okay? So most likely refers to Agenda 21, a voluntary UN action plan for sustainable development adopted by over 178 countries in 1993. So this agenda later was integrated into 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And what countries have signed it? US, China, India, or European Union countries, Brazil, Australia, altogether was 193 members. What I wanted to focus on was what country didn't sign it. So let me take you down here. And I ask this question: what countries didn't sign it? The 2030 Agenda. So let me read you. Countries that are not signatories of the 2030 Agenda. The following countries and entities are not among the 193 UN member states that adopted the 2030 Agenda. Vatican, State of Palestine, Taiwan, and Cook Islands, and what is it? There are no member states with free association agreements with New Zealand. So Cook Islands, those countries, guys. Okay? They didn't sign it. Do you remember, not a long time ago, we had this situation in Vietnam. And if you know, Vietnam is part of BRICS. Do you remember? Vietnam closed or deactivated over 86 million bank accounts as part of data cleansing campaign that began in September 2025, so just 2 months ago. This action targeted inactive accounts that had not been linked to biometric authentication, aiming to prevent fraud. That's how they always say. It's all about your safety. You remember the Schmovit for your safety and everyone else? Aiming to prevent fraud and cybercrime by ensuring all accounts are tied to a verified identity. The State Bank of Vietnam, SBV, deactivated accounts that were inactive, unregistered, or frozen for extended periods. So imagine. It was 86 million bank accounts, and Vietnam is part of BRICS. So now, let's just go and look one more time. What about BRICS and the currency that BRICS will announce? So, there is no confirmed launch date for a BRICS currency, as discussions and planning are still in the early stages and progress has been slow. Well, maybe not so slow, but while some analysts have speculated about a potential 2026 launch, more recent reports suggest operational deployment of a related payment system might be targeted for 2030. I think it will be sooner, but they like this 2030. It aligns with the vision. BRICS members are focusing on developing alternative payment systems and increasing local currency settlements rather than on a single shared currency at the time. So it makes sense because every country will have its own digital currency. And then ultimately they will announce the BRICS currency. And in the same time in Europe, the economies will be kaput, which all will come down to digital euro. So at the end of the day, let's just unite. No official launch date as of the late 2025, potential for 26, and that's how it looks like. So what do you think, guys? In my personal opinion, they are all connected. And I want to take you to a quick video with Putin, and he's the head of the Sberbank, this guy. This was 2 years ago, I think, in 2023. You have a Russian language, but you have English subtitles, so you can just read it. Let me mute myself. One moment, everyone. 1 second. Right here, we're gonna watch this video. This is Putin asking Sberbank CEO when he will be replaced by AI. Of course, this is all just joking, but is it really joking?
Герман, искусственный интеллект вас заменит на посту председателя Сбера?
Владимир Ильич, надеюсь, не при моей жизни, но все к этому идет.
Вы видите, с такими людьми прогресс невозможен. Все будет теперь тормозить.
Каждый год мы инвестируем примерно сумму, равную $1 миллиарду в технологии искусственного интеллекта. И примерно получаем обратно примерно от искусственного интеллекта в год примерно $3 миллиарда.
Масштаб серьезный. Поэтому все усилия, которые направлены на достижение конкретных целей по этому направлению, они, конечно, должны быть поддержаны. За этим будущее. Мы прекрасно отдаем себе в этом отчет. За этим абсолютное будущее. Это по степени важности для страны, для любой страны, не менее значимо, чем в свое время атомный или ракетный проект Советского Союза, который в середине 40-х и 50-х годов осуществлялся.
Имена тех коллег, которые здесь тоже присутствуют, ребят, просто.
So it is important for the country, for any country in that matter, but it is because this is the same system, the same formula all around the world. So where is the freedom of the citizens in all of this? I really ask a genuine question. I know it's like I'm, picking on this or that, but isn't it all the same? It's just in a different packaging. That's how I see it. Now, let me show you a very interesting video about this Sberbank that I came across. And I really want you to, if you have time, of course, if you have time, to look into this documentary. I will be playing just the beginning of it, guys. So I will mute myself. And then I give you a few comments about this is the, the history of the largest bank in Russia, the Sberbank that I was just talking about. And that CEO that had this conversation with Putin is the CEO of this bank.
Before you is a rare copy of a book about Russia's largest bank. On the first page, Vladimir Putin congratulates Sberbank on its 160th anniversary. Sberbank loves to tell its story about its origins in the mid-19th century. But is that really true? After all, the first Sberbank only appeared in the Soviet Union, and only in 1987. And the modern Sberbank we all know only appeared in 2020. But the most interesting thing isn't even that, but how Sberbank has managed to attract over 100 million customers and accumulate half of all deposits in Russia while paying the lowest interest rates for using your money. And yet, only Sberbank regularly competes with the kings of the Russian economy, the oil and gas companies, for the top spot on the list of Russia's most profitable companies. To understand how Green Bank became the main company financing the Russian economy and holding the money of every second depositor in Russia, we need to go back to the year Sberbank would very much like to trace its history back to.
So it's a very interesting documentary. I actually watched it in full length. It's about 40 minutes long. And at the end of that video, you can see the current state of this bank, how this bank operates, how everything is connected as far as on your application, that every form of service, everything that you want to do with food, paying the bills. And again, I know this is in many other countries, but I'm saying that they are narrowing this in every country to using your phones, to using everything on your phone, on your applications, to has less and less contact even with the locations of those banks. Of course, they still exist because it's a transformation period, right? And it's not going to be right away. And older people, I don't know how they're going to go through this transition. So everything is being accumulated on those applications. That's why I go back to Russia introducing digital ID with this application called Max, okay? This application that will be already installed on the new phones that people are buying. It's already there, like you cannot get rid of it. It's part of it. So everything will be into those applications, like digital ID. So you have to go through it. Biometrics, face recognition, bank accounts, everything. And I think the best way to end this video that really stimulates my thinking, what is this about? Like, is there anything different with BRICS or other countries? And if people still think that is better because it seems like it's better, but at the end of the day, it's leading to the same end of the road. That's how I see it, but you know, I might be the only one in the world who sees things like this, and I'm okay with this. So let's go back to Rothschilds, because the banking system has a lot to do with them. And since the banks and wars and conflicts are just about the same, because it's all about profits, this video will be a perfect video to finish my video with. So let's take a look. Sometimes my Instagram videos are playing slower or stopping because it's different connection. I don't know, the internet works different than if I play it from YouTube. So let's take a look. A little history lesson here.
Rothschild control the world with debt. It all started in Frankfurt, Germany.
And by the way, they still do.
A goldsmith named Amschel Moses Bauer opened a coin shop. Above the door, he hung a sign, a Roman eagle on a red shield.
Rothschild is Red Shield, by the way.
Locals began calling it the Red Shield Firm, or in German, Rothschild. When Bauer's son, Meyer Amschel, inherited the business, he took the name for himself, Rothschild, and he quickly learned that loaning money to governments and kings was far more profitable than loaning to individuals.
True, they're bigger, they have more liabilities, more assets.
The loans were massive, and they were backed by the nation's taxes. Impossible to default. Meyer Rothschild had 5 sons. He trained each in the art of finance, then sent 4 across Europe to open branch offices. Paris, London, Naples, Vienna, while the eldest stayed back in Frankfurt. One family network controlling the entire continent. And with that network, they moved money instantly, shared intelligence faster than any government, and funded wars on both sides. No matter who won,
Funded wars on both sides, all the way since the 1800s.
the bill with interest always came to the same address.
Which means that these Rothschilds, who are self-proclaimed Zionists, have funded every war since 1800. So that means they would have had a hand in the Holocaust, which would be interesting because Israel, the Zionists who run Israel right now, have something called the Hannibal Directive, where they say that it is okay to kill their own citizens if they're about to be taken prisoner of war, such that they don't have to worry about them in the future. So if that pattern existed before Israel, does that mean that Zionists would have created Nazi Germany? These are just questions.
How did the Rothschild control?
So a few things here. First, we are just living in a 21st century. Well, that's also questionable since the calendar has been rigged as well. Everything is a lie. But imagine that it's a little different now, how you control the citizens. You control them with the banks, the large banks, with those applications, right? With the digital ID, if you can click on it, if it goes through, if it doesn't. So there is this talk, and has been for a quite long time, about choosing not the large banks, but the small local banks, more, I don't know if you can say independent but smaller banks, not the large banks. Like, for example, this one, the Sberbank in Russia, or many other banks that large. But then the second question came to my mind. Since, you know, they always sponsor both sides of the conflict. They have to, because they always win. They always profit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's the winner at the end of the day. to them, it doesn't matter who is the winner. It matters that there is a conflict. So ask yourself this question at this moment. We know, and I talked about this before, this is the new Great Israel project in the making, New Khazaria 2.0. Yes, Poland will be part of it as well. A lot of Poland will be connected, so countries will change, the nationalities will move around, the original nationalities will be pushed aside. But think about it. So we know who kind of sponsors Ukraine side. So who do you think sponsors this war from Russian side? Citizens of Russia, right? But what if, let's just think about it. Let's just go back to World War II and how we have all been played with the conflicts that have been all connected at the top, because the profit went to the same bankers and the same group of people, the same families. And I know this is what I'm talking about. It's not nice to many people because you still believe in this illusion that there is a difference. You know, it's really hard to come to this understanding that this is global, and the sooner we wake up to the truth, the sooner we can actually really liberate ourselves from this. This is just my opinion. And I think I am not the only one that thinks like this. I see in some of your comments that you understand what I am talking about, how I see the big picture of those things. So guys, I will attach all the links down below in the description box. Let me know what you think. But if you're trying to convince me that there are better sites or less good sites, I'm not buying this anymore, because remember, the reasoning for conflict can always be this or that, can be created, can even be based on absolute truths, but ultimately, it's all agreed, in my opinion. Even though from the outside it looks like there are opponents and they are conflicting one another, this is global project. That's how it's looking, and that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you appreciate the content, you're welcome to hit thumbs up and subscribe, and leave the comments down below. Let me know if you choose to support my work, if you consider to support my work. The best way is to join my Patreon, or donate on PayPal, or become local supporter. And if you have Instagram, follow me there. It's AniaK_44. With this being said, guys, lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. And I see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.